The Linguistic Justice Collaborative is a grassroots organization that is driven by its theoretical framework, inquiry design, and theory of change that helps us collectively work towards our shared mission to sustain the identified and designed language and literacy practices throughout the state of Georgia. Starting with the theoretical framework, we believe that sustaining community language and literacy practices means understanding language through race, history, and place. We agree with professional organizations' position statements and scholars who understand that we are our language and we have a right to our own languages as we construct ourselves and our communities through them, which then changes the way that we listen rather than asking others to change the ways that they speak. We also believe that this work is identity work for teachers, youth, and communities, and we foreground race within our conception of identity to ensure the racialization of language is explicit in how we understand which language and literacy practices, both voiced and unvoiced, have been sustained over time and for what purposes. This is necessarily going to be historical work because we can't understand community languages and literacies unless we understand the history that created them, the present day challenges that they face, and work with community members to create more just futures. And all of this work is tied to place. The geographic space where language and literacy practices are created and used is where they hold the most meaning. And as we grow in these understandings of our own languages, races, identities, histories, and places in the world, then our holistic identities are also developed, changed, and sustained. Then, as individual identities are developed, changed, and sustained, they come together to form unique cultural and geographic communities throughout Georgia. These communities are sustained through shared community language and literacy practices. So, for example, in Georgia's Low Country and Barrier Islands, Sapelo Island is accessible only by ferry, and for the past 13 generations has been home to the descendants of formerly enslaved persons, making it the last intact Gullah Geechee community on the Atlantic coast. Its last 29 descendants and 7 families on the island preserve the Gullah Geechee, the Gullah culture and the Geechee language, an English, Central and West African and Afro-Seminole Creole language. The residents in the Hog Hammock community preserve Geechee storytelling and literacy practices, including sweetgrass basket weaving, indigo dyeing, and public art like this mural, which is owned by the business owner, Maurice. It's a portrait of his mother with a sheet in the shape of Sapelo Island and a person representing the spirit of Sapelo is bursting through that map of Sapelo with the Sankofa symbol, go back and get it, a reverence for history. The community is threatened, however, by ongoing legal battles over zoning laws that seek to take land, increase property taxes, and a failure to support threats to the island's infrastructure, particularly the island's instability with rising oceans. This was seen very viscerally in October of 2024 when a catastrophic ferry dock collapse at Sapelo Island caused the deaths of 7 visitors who were there to celebrate Gullah culture and history. The battle to sustain Gullah Geechee languages and literacy practices, it's tied to racialized histories that seek to repeat, particularly if their land is not sustained. If the ferry and its dock are not repaired, how can current residents and descendants embrace the spirit of Sapelo and go back and get it, building their identities through cultural, language, and literacy practices that are rooted in history? How can the community continue to strengthen and be sustained if its geographic place is erased or inaccessible? How we represent our theoretical framework, it's changed over time as we sought to communicate these essential ideas and the relationships between them, going from more complex until we finally resulted in our current theoretical framework visual. This still centers Georgia's languages, races, histories, and places, while the individuals represented by the smaller dots grow and develop, creating a strong community represented by the orange circle. So it's through this theoretical framework that we approach and look at every project, every opportunity, every time that we are invited into a community within Georgia. If you'd like to use this theoretical framework as a part of the work of the Linguistic Justice Collaborative, keep learning by visiting our website or joining us, following us, and interacting with us on social media.